It's a pleasure to do this today. Shane Feely, Coach Shane Feely is coming down from Burlington, and I got the pleasure of watching Shane coach last year. My youngest daughter was going to school up there. She was a cheerleader, so I watched his entire season. And for just a moment, I want to kind of give you my 2 cents on athletics. I feel like a lot of times we spend so much time on the 1%, the top 1%, that we miss the other 99%. And if you look at Division I schools that go on to pro, it's less than 1% that actually move to the next level, and almost every level it's less than 1%. So those 99% get lost in the 4A. And what I saw last season when Coach Feely was coaching was he didn't have any young superstar. He took several young kids that were pretty good that he made them realize how good they could be. And he took them to a level that they'd never realized that they could play at. And I think he played regularly 5 to 7 players the whole time, and every one of his players played almost every game. And it was really a nice, decent way to see kids play, and it's different from what I've seen in a while. So I think we, as a community, we're very lucky to have a coach like that cares about every member on that team. I know he took those young boys and made them young men in about a year period, and they grew a lot during that time frame. So with that, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Coach Shane Feely.
Well, thank you guys for inviting me to come talk to you about what our program is going to be like. Many of you know me. I grew up in the area. I went to school at Burlington and graduated there in 1993, and came over here to Northwestern to school and graduated in 4 years and graduated in 1997. I don't know that I was quite ready to be out and teaching young people at that time, but my dad told me, "You're going to get off my payroll." So I took a job at Drummond, and I taught there for a year, and moved back to Alva the following year. My wife, we were dating at the time, and she was going to school at Northwestern, and that year my father took the Northwestern women. So I came home and lived here for 4 years and taught in Winoka and commuted there. From there, my wife graduated, and we took jobs at Buffalo. Buffalo both had 2 jobs for us, and we spent 2 years out there. And then from there, we went to O'Keene, and we spent 7 years at O'Keene, where we loved that community and still do. But we felt like there was a need for us to slow down. Our kids were young, and you get to a point where you run so much that you don't get to see your own kids. So we took a year off, and I worked in the oil field for about a year before I took the principal's job at Burlington for the last 5 years. And I spent 4 years there just as principal before I took the boys last year. And I think that was kind of important. A lot of times coaches will go into administration, but they go straight into administration and continue to coach. I'd always said I wasn't going to do both. I wanted to be able to commit myself to the administrative job if that's what I was going to do. So I learned that job, and then sometimes it's hard finding coaching candidates anymore, and so I stepped in. I had 2 nephews playing on the team last year and felt like they deserved a chance to have a coach that had some experience. So that being said, to me, and I played for Randy Turney and Terry Karras at Burlington. 5 of those years were with Randy Turney, and Randy was very tough. He demanded a lot of us, and not just on the court, but in the classroom and from a behavior standpoint anytime we were anywhere. And I was lucky to have him as a coach. He taught me a lot about the game, but he taught me a lot about other parts of our lives. So I've tried to mimic that. I've tried to implement things in our program that maybe don't really necessarily have anything to do with basketball, but has to do with working with other people, learning to be a part of a team and fulfill a role even when that role is not the most glorious part of the team. So anyway, I had an opportunity to meet with our boys at the end of May, and we had a great turnout, a lot of kids and a lot of parents, and had an opportunity to tell them kind of what the program would be like. And to me, you're not supposed to win the state championship every year, and I know the Alva girls did there for 3 years in a row, but that's pretty abnormal. And what we really want is to create a program that our kids will always play hard and make the community proud of them regardless of what the outcome is. And I think you do that by acting right on the court. We talked about, when you get technicals, what the repercussions are. And my policy is that if a kid gets a technical for, unsportsmanlike conduct or something like that, they sit 4 quarters. And we kind of mark the time, and they're going to sit 4 quarters. It was a little bit more stringent before. I used to do it, they set the rest of that game in the next game. And I had a couple of kids who sat 4 quarters to fulfill that, and some had to sit 7, and I didn't feel like that was fair. So I changed that policy to be 4 quarters, period. So along with that, that's kind of indicative of discipline on the court, and you have to have that. You can get up and down the floor and play undisciplined and beat some people, but if you want to beat the ones that you have to get to the state tournament, you're going to have to play discipline. So that's just kind of an indicator of where we want to take things. I talked to him about no excuses. As a coach, you train yourself to watch every other aspect of the game. Where somebody in the stands may be watching where the basketball goes, a coach trains himself to watch every aspect. And so we don't. When I'm coaching, I'm pretty adamant that they answer yes sir, no sir. And like I told them, that's not because I seek to be a drill sergeant. I didn't grow up dreaming of being a drill sergeant, but I want them to, I'm trying to save them from saying something stupid that might get them in trouble. So that kind of goes back to no excuses. We want them to look clean cut. We want them to, there's a dress code. We're going to have a team polo and ties, and we're going to dress up for every game. I see some teams and they dress up in warm-up suits, and that's fine. But to me, I think that's another part of teaching kids about what it's going to be like when they get out in the professional world. Learn to dress appropriately and look as a professional. And so we try to do that. And another big aspect to me is whether kids are coachable. We really stressed that in the meeting about being coachable. And they all nod their head. I don't know they fully understand what that means yet. But being able to take some direction and some commands, because we all know that when you get out in the real world and you're working for somebody, you're going to have to be able to take some directions. And so far, we've been to two summer leagues, and we've had our own camp. We've had open gyms on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and I really didn't know what to expect out of these kids, but I can tell you from working with them last month that we have a lot of really good kids that are very coachable, and they are yes sir, no sir guys. They have taken to what we're trying to accomplish, and I don't want to say surprised, but I've been pleasantly surprised, because you just don't know what you're going to get from an attitude standpoint sometimes. And good leaders, our seniors have been great. Our young kids are trying to do things right too. So very pleased with that part of it. Another part of that aspect is when you're talking about seniors, I always tell my seniors that being a senior is a position of service and not a position of privilege. You tend to have that pecking order sometimes in athletics, and the seniors may think, I don't have to pick up those basketballs, I don't have to pick up the locker room, I'll just tell the freshmen to do it. Well, we don't want it to be that way. So we really stressed that the seniors' job is to push people up and not put them down. And their job is to lead by example and not by command. They're not supposed to be bossing and yelling people down on the court. So I haven't seen any of that. I don't anticipate that I'll see any of it. We've just got some really good leaders, I think, that will take that and run with it. From a purely basketball standpoint, we want to be a team that can play a variety of ways. We don't want to be a team that can just play fast or just play slow. We want to be able to do what the other team can't do or what they don't want to do. And so sometimes we'll play really fast, sometimes we press, sometimes we play very, very slow and grind it out, and sometimes it's not pretty, but I sure don't like to lose. So we would rather play the way that gives us a chance to win than to play maybe an aesthetically pleasing game that would cause us to lose. So we talked about playing hard, playing smart, playing together. And they don't know all those things about how to do those things yet, but they're trying. And I think they'll grow as the year goes in those regards. We just don't want to be a team that beats ourselves. We want to be able to guard people and take care of the basketball and let the other team beat themselves. Our kids have they've been to the gym. When we open up the gym, there's 20 to 25 kids there to play every Tuesday and Thursday night. And you don't find that everywhere. I've coached in some places where you don't have that. And when you have that, your kids are going to grow, they're going to improve, and they're going to give you chances to win every night. So, that all being said, when you start talking about playing time and who gets to play, we talked about the best players are going to play. And they all nod their heads, that sounds pretty good. But then I say, well, who gets to choose who the best players are? And I think about that and say, well, you do. I said, you're right, the coach does. The coach is going to pick who's going to play based on who gives us the best chance to win. And what I think they found through summer leagues is there have been games where a certain combination has worked better, and that combination stayed on the floor for longer periods of time until they just got too tired to play and continue to execute. So they've taken to that, and they understand that. And so what you've seen is some kids maybe on the outside of that player rotation in the past are really, really buying into that, and they're seeing some playing time because they're being coachable and doing what they're supposed to do. So we had a great little run down at the Fairview Summer League where we lost twice to Hennessy, who's got a really nice team this year, and we'll see them in the Pioneer Tournament. But we were able to beat Chisholm by 20, and we had Fairview beat until we went and played some of our JV kids, and their JV kids kind of took it to us. But we had a good record, and we got about 18 games in, and then we also had a camp where I got to teach some of our playbook. We got to install offense and defense. And we didn't get very deep into it because it was only 3 days, but it was an opportunity to teach and an opportunity to learn. I really feel like as a coach, he introduced me as a coach, but you're really a teacher every day, and you're a coach about 30 nights out of the year. You're a coach when everybody's in the stands watching, but you're really a teacher. So every day we're trying to teach those guys something new, something that will improve them as a player and a person. Once again, I think we've got some fantastic kids that are leading our program. I don't know how many games we'll win. All I can tell you is that we will play hard, we will play smart, we will play together, and I think that the community will be proud to watch us no matter what. So, at this point, I wonder if any of you have any questions for me that I could answer. Yes?
How do you get along with kindergartners?
Kindergartners. Let me tell you about that, Lynn. So at Burlington, I was the PK through 12 principal, and I'll be the principal at Washington doing PK through first. And the thing about being at Washington is you can discipline a kindergartner, and you can walk out in the hall, and he's probably going to hug your leg and say hi, and he's going to forget about it. You get a high school kid and you do some discipline. I hope not, but sometimes you might get your car keys. So I'd say I get along pretty good with kindergartners. Anybody else?
Do you have any new opponents this year?
New opponents. Well, I took a look at the schedule earlier. I think for the most part it's going to be pretty much what it's been, but we will be going to the Pioneer Tournament in December, and we'll run into some teams we don't normally see. And then at the end of January, we'll go to the Cashion County Line Tournament, and we'll see some teams closer to the city.
Are there any financial or political problems with playing schools in Kansas as close as we are to the state line?
Financially, I'd say no. Politically, at Burlington, we played Kiowa and we played Attica. And one of the things, with Kiowa, it was always a rivalry. They used to play twice a year. They played once a year because it got too heated. And I got to be honest with you, it wouldn't have bothered me if we didn't play them any, because the refereeing association is a little bit different up there. And so every time you cross the line, come down here, the Kansas schools think that they're getting the short end of the stick, and we go up there and some of our people thought they were getting the short end of the stick. So, I would say it wouldn't be a terrible idea, but you gotta watch the rivalry.
Geographically, it makes sense.
It does. And you gotta be honest with you, that trip to Cashion 3 nights at the end of January will be pretty tough. So, yes.
How many seniors you got?
Well, I don't know that I've counted them. I think there's about 6 or 7.
You mentioned coaching your nephews last year. Did that cause any internal family issues?
Well, there was a concern there, and before Ken Jones had taken the job 3 years prior to that, I was trying to stay away from that. But last year, I went to my nephew's parents and I said, hey, this is probably what way it's going to go down, and they were wholeheartedly behind me, no matter what. So it was a really, really pleasant situation, to be honest with you. Now, I went to Tanner and I said, Tanner, I'm going to coach you pretty hard. I got to. And how are you going to deal with it? And, he said all the right things, and he knew what the answers were. And then, we butted heads pretty regularly. I think Richard could attest to that during the year. And it was because he was a passionate player, and he plays 100 mile an hour regardless. And so sometimes I had to slow him down, and I'd rather be able to have to slow him down than speed him up, because he did play with a lot of passion. Any other questions?
Kansas still have the 5-quarter rule?
Not that I'm aware of. Of course, we didn't play JV, so it didn't matter. We usually don't have enough to play JV at Burlington, so I really couldn't answer that question.
Was playing in Kansas the only time I ever got a technical in my life.
Really?
Because I played too many quarters.
Oh, yeah. Huh. Well, when I was in school, they had that rule as well, and it didn't give you technical, but it made you had to sit out a game or something.
Well, second quarter started because Coach put me in and halfway through the first quarter of the varsity game, and I played the entire JV game.
Right.
Second quarter started, and as soon as it started, they were blowing their whistles and pointing at me, and I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah. And talking about my technical rule that I have with my players, that would be an instance where I would not punish the player. When I interviewed at O'Keene, they asked me that question, well, what if a kid goes up and slaps the backboard and gets a technical? I said, well, we're not going to sit him for that. That's not in the spirit of the rule. The spirit of the rule was don't mouth off to the officials and don't taunt the opponents. And so that's what I'd limit that to. So, anything else? Okay, thank you for having me today.